and welcome to Destination I Do's podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Stein, and we are talking all about dressing your best for your destination wedding. And I have a very special guest, you guys, Julie Sabatino. She is the owner and founder of The Stylish Bride. She is celebrating 20 years in business. She is the original, the OG, the most sought after bridal stylist in the world. Julie is the go-to for some of the most discerning couples, and she has spent 2 decades curating looks for seriously the most impressive client list that includes celebrities, socialites, elite power players. And today there isn't a top designer that doesn't have an ironclad relationship with her. And guys, Oscar de la Renta named a dress after her. So welcome to the show, Julie. I'm so excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you, Jen. I'm so excited to be here and thank you for such a warm welcome.
Of course. And one thing you should also know, she is the author of the new book, Dressed, Styled, and Down the Aisle, and also has her own podcast with the same moniker. So she knows her stuff when it comes to dressing and looking your best. I want to hear it because I always like to start off with like your origin story, if you will. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your own personal wedding gown buying experience and what prompted you to start your own styling company.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story because I don't know what year were you married?
2005. So, girl, I got opinions here because there were
Hmm.
not a lot of dresses for a destination bride. I'm just
I
saying.
know. I
It was
mean,
literally
well,
ball
that is
gowns
true.
and that was it.
That's what I faced too. So I was married in 2001, and back then you literally had strapless, big skirt, pleated ball gowns with like heavy embroidery on the bodice, and that was pretty much it,
Yeah,
which is not at all what I wanted.
same.
But we didn't have the internet really. I mean, sorry, of course we had the internet, but people didn't have great websites
No.
and we didn't have social media. So we had bridal magazines that came out quarterly, maybe monthly, but most of them were at least bi-monthly. So anyway, the point was that it was hard to get the information that I needed. So, I worked in finance before I started this business and I had a super busy travel schedule and I was, working a lot. Um, so as I started trying on dresses, I walked into the very first store, and I tell this story in my book because I went to like every bride living in New York at the time. The very first place they went is Vera Wang. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be it. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to try on 3 dresses, drink some champagne, everyone's going to cheer, and I'm going to be done, and it's going to be perfect. And sure enough, it wasn't, which wasn't their fault. They were lovely, and it was not anything against the experience. But there were a couple of things that happened. And one of the very first things is that none of the samples fit because I am a curvier woman. At the time, I was small, but I was about, I want to say maybe a 10 or, yeah, probably about a size 10. But the dresses wouldn't zip up in the back. And that was super humiliating to go out to show my mom and my future sister-in-law and mother-in-law and the rest of the store because, and PS Madison Avenue because their windows are right on Madison Avenue. And you're like, my God, like I'm in this dress that doesn't even zip up. And I had no idea that was going to be the case. Um, and then the long and the short of it is that I just didn't want a big poofy cupcake dress, but there wasn't much else out there.
Mhm.
So as I started going through these appointments, I tried on hundreds of dresses and had just the hardest time. And I looked for someone like me, and there wasn't anyone. So that planted the seed. And then, I did my wedding. I went to fashion school and started the business in 2004.
Wow. You know what? I feel like as you're describing your dress buying experience, you described almost to a T what I experienced.
Oh, really?
And oh my God. I mean, I'm 5'3"
Hmm.
and I got curves. Like I'm like literally like a meatball with a waist. And I went in there, and I had the same kind of notion that you did where I was like, okay, I'm going to go in with my mom and my girlfriends. And, we found, of course, Vera. Vera was one of my top, she was like one of my
Yeah.
top two designers. And the reason I didn't go with the Vera is because I couldn't sit down in the dress. The boning was, because I have a short waist. So the boning was
Yeah.
so long, it was like digging in and I couldn't
Oh
sit
my,
down. And I thought, I can't buy a dress this expensive and not be able to sit in it. So
yeah.
that was the reason I didn't go with that one. But as a destination bride, I was planning on getting married on a beach, like
Right.
next to the ocean. So for me to be in this cupcake dress, this giant ball gown, I don't have a pronounced neckline, so I
Uh-huh.
don't look good in strapless. Like, and for me, it was either a like the silhouette of like a negligee for
Hmm.
destination,
Sure.
which I also, I'm like, sorry, I got assets. I don't need to
Yeah.
be showing the world all the things, right?
Right.
And so for me, I really struggled and I was shocked because I couldn't zip the dress up either.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, I don't understand. Like I feel body shamed a little bit. I
Yeah.
feel insecure. I was in tears at my very
Oh
first
yeah.
appointment. And I thought like, but why? I don't understand. Like I thought you're supposed to feel your most beautiful on
Yep.
your wedding day. Like why am I feeling like this? Like this is hard. This is a really hard experience and
Yeah.
it kind of took the rug out from under me a little bit. So
Yeah.
I totally feel you there. So when you started your business, was that what shocked you the most about it was just the sizing or what like was there anything else that kind of took you off guard?
It was the sizing, it was lack of information. I felt
Mhm.
like I didn't want a big ball gown skirt, but I didn't know where to go to find that. And so, you would enter the stores, but you wouldn't know in advance what they had in them. So, of course, it's different today. And it's funny because originally I thought that, if I just understand the designers and understand the woman, I'll be able to almost be a matchmaker and
Yeah.
find what helps them. And based on their body type and budget and wedding style and all of that. But today I find what we do is curate out, like we weed out all of these other things that they don't need to see that doesn't fit them because there's so much information out there. So it's really done a 180 in what we do, but it's, obviously the same topic.
Mhm.
But that shocked me. And it was also that um, there was no real information. Like you didn't know what a dress cost before going into a
Mhm.
store. I mean, honestly, that is still hard today because designers don't really list prices on their websites. So, there's just all of these nuances that I struggled with. And I just thought, my God, like there has to be an easier way than this.
Mhm.
So that's sort of the story.
Wow. So I know that you personally, just in your business and your clientele, you really put an emphasis on body positivity and inclusivity. In the time that you've been in business, do you feel like, not just with couture, but in general, has the sizing changed at all?
No, no, the sizing hasn't changed at all. And in fact, it is based on haute couture standards from the 1940s.
Thank you,
So
Christian Dior.
exactly. And it's pretty incredible. And what we've seen is that the ready to wear market has updated and over time they've accommodated. Now, not all designers, right? Because there are a lot of designers out there like the, big names that and expensive brands that don't make anything above a size 12 if they even have that.
Mhm.
Um, but there are certainly people that have more inclusive sizes. In wedding dresses, I think that, there are several challenges with it. One of them is that the stores carry one sample of each dress.
Mhm.
And that's because the samples are really expensive to produce. So the process starts from going in and, selecting the dress to try on, which is its own part of the puzzle that you have to get to. But when you're finally in there and trying the dress on, then, you know, like 8 out of 10 women don't fit into that dress for one reason or another.
Mhm.
I've had brides where they're very petite and the dresses are enormous on them, and vice versa, or really petite women, or really, and these dresses, so that you're never really, unless you're basically, I don't know, 5'8", 5'9", size 4, 6 with a B cup, the dress isn't going to fit. And so, you're going to be asked to use your imagination a lot throughout the process. And like, oh, imagine what this is going to look like when it's in your size, or when it's new, or when it's hemmed, or, all of these things.
Yeah.
And it can be really difficult for brides. How do you even begin to understand? And it's the most important fashion moment of most women's life.
Yeah.
So, there's just all of these struggles that I think that aren't really talked about very much.
Mm. So how would you say? Or how would you advise women to feel their best in a seemingly size shaming environment? Are there things that they can do to just go in there, maybe like, armed at least with this information so they're not caught off guard like you and I were?
Yeah, no,
Unfortunately, things
exactly.
haven't changed much in 20 years. Are there things that they can be doing while they're there proactively so they can feel their best and have a better experience than you and I had?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things. I actually, during COVID, my COVID project was I created a product called the sample size solution.
Ooh,
And
tell me
what,
more. That sounds amazing.
yeah, I was like, wait a minute, this is so messed up. Like you go into a store and I don't know if you've been in a bridal salon lately, but they generally have these electrical clamps and like, I don't
You're
know,
not
these
being
like rubber
electrocuted
bands.
though.
What?
I said, but you're not being electrocuted. But they're
No,
like the clamps that you would use to
yeah.
jump your car.
These
Yes.
big black things or orange
Yep.
things. Anyway, so I was like, this is ugly, right? And it's hard to really get a good sense of what the dress is going to fit like. So I created the sample size solution where it's a series of beautiful clips that blend in that are white, a panel of fabric, and elastic, so you can size the dress to you and have it keep like, retain some modesty in terms of not showing your whole backside and have it look more seamless. So you can go out of the dressing room with confidence rather than
I love that.
being worried. So that's one thing. Get a sample size solution. And funnily enough, actually, a lot of stores purchase them from me because
Oh,
they know this is
yeah,
a
that's
resource they
brilliant.
need.
Yes.
Yes. So brides do as well. But so if you're curvy or you're particularly busty, it's great because that way you can make sure that you get the dress fitting the best that you can.
Hmm.
Another thing that you can do is figure out when you're making your appointments, you're going to want to ask about sizing and what the store has. Now, a lot of salons will have, a couple of samples in a better size, which is basically anything above a bridal size 8 or 10, which, by the way, is a ready to wear 4 or 6 because
Hmm.
bridal runs really, really small, which is getting back to your last question. I don't know if I fully answered, but it is, it's a problem. So anyway, you can start by asking what sizes they have. I would recommend going to a store, even if that's not where you think you're going to get your dress, but that has a better range. So you can start to try on samples of the shapes. Even if it's a ready to wear, like, you could go to a department store and, go into the evening gown department,
Hmm.
and chances are you'll be able to find a trumpet, a line, a mermaid and a princess cut. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
start to at least see them on your body so that you
Hmm.
can understand because, you know, just because you think that you're going to like whatever shape doesn't mean that you actually are.
Yes.
So you have to start to do the research. But if you have that knowledge, um, you know, what is the saying? Like under your belt, is that the right? Yeah,
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think so.
That sounds right.
Then when you go into a bridal salon and the dress doesn't fit, you'll at least understand, okay, but I know that I like a trumpet style on me.
Hmm.
And you'll be able to envision a little bit better when you're put in a position and asked to do so.
Absolutely. I love that. Now we all have different assets, if you will. Some we love, some we don't love.
Yeah.
On page 27 of your book, you have a great diagram that kind of helps the reader figure out what body parts they want to accentuate and others they want to minimize and how to match that with your dress style.
Yeah.
So if a reader finds the perfect silhouette based on their body type is a mermaid style gown, let's say, but they'd always envisioned in their mind a ball gown,
Hmm.
what do you suggest that they do?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. And the thing that I want to point out about it is that to me, okay, there are tons of articles out there about body type and what looks best on each body type. But to me, that's ridiculous because how can somebody else say, just because I'm a pear shape, that I should wear an A line? What if I
Mhm.
love my hips? Right.
Mhm.
So you're just automatically assuming because I have bigger hips than a top that I don't want to show them off.
Right.
And I find it really offensive. So I
I
try
love that. I
to,
never really thought about that
yeah,
before
yeah,
because I've kind of after all these years, I've finally embraced my curves and my husband's like, "No, I want to see the curves. Like I don't want to
yeah,
see you in a caftan. I want to see you in the, Jessica Rabbit outfit." You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
he loves it. So, and
Which
I'm
is
like, "Hey, if he
amazing.
loves it, then okay, like I might as well
Yeah.
embrace it too." So I think that's a really good point to make. Sorry, go
And
ahead.
so you no, but it's true. And you have, so I really want women to focus on what they want to accentuate and
Mhm.
lead with that because we all have things. I mean, even the smallest, most beautiful. I worked with a Victoria's Secret model one time and who was like pretty much the worst critic of anyone. And it's astounding. But the point is that you have to decide what's right for you and what makes
Mhm.
you feel great.
Mhm.
And from there, you can understand. So let's just say you're right. And, the mermaid style is really what's going to do it, but you want a ball gown. I think you can incorporate some of the aspects of a
Mhm.
mermaid into the ball gown. So maybe it's this sweetheart neckline that you love because it does show your décolleté in a beautiful way. And then maybe you do a lower waist so that you see where it's pinched in, and then you have the ball gown coming out. There are ways to work around it, and you just take the information. But again, it's so hard to say one way definitively, right? Because every woman in every dress is different. So
Yeah.
you have to try them on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about for a second the difference between fashion and style because they are not the same thing.
They are not.
They are not, and you talk about this in your book also. Tell us how they differ and how this can impact your wedding dress selection.
Yeah, I mean, I think fashion is very much what is au courant, what is going on, what you're seeing on social media, what you're seeing in magazines, and what designers are putting out there. And style is really about you and what makes you light up on the inside so that you
Mhm.
look great on the outside. And I truly believe after all of these years of working with so many women that confidence is literally the number one key to looking beautiful. And
Mm.
so if you feel like you're rocking it and you love it, you're going to look great regardless.
Mhm.
And that's what every woman needs. So, I think that, and that's what style is. That's what your personal style is. What gets you feeling amazing? What do you love? What
Mhm.
gets you excited to put on? And that's what you want for your wedding dress.
Yeah. I once saw a billboard that said well, I don't even think it said a woman. I think it said your best accessory is your smile. And I just
Yeah.
thought, whoa, it kind of like hit me in the face. It was in
Yeah.
Grand Rapids, Michigan that I
Oh,
saw
really?
this billboard. And I was like, it's so, and I think I saw it like 15 years ago. And I still remember it because it was, I don't even know what it was an advertisement for, probably a
Probably like
dentist's
toothpaste
office
or
or
yeah,
orthodontist
exactly.
or something. But I just thought that's really powerful.
It
You think
is.
about like you could be wearing your frumpiest thing, but if you have that, that confidence and that positivity about yourself,
Yeah.
that speaks volumes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think too that people can have lots of different style, like their personal style
Yeah.
can incorporate everything from super preppy
Yep.
to something more, sophisticated and streamlined. Like it doesn't have to be, you don't have to like put yourself in a box. Like if you love it, it makes you feel good, wear it. And,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
It's true. And I think brides can have a difficult time sometimes deciding which part of their style they want to show on their wedding day.
Hmm.
And we talk about in the book, it's something I coined the style cocktail because I think that women's style, like you're saying, is very multidimensional. And,
Hmm.
you probably have a core style and then a supporting style and then a pop of something.
Hmm.
So for me, it's like I oh my God, I totally forget what mine is. It's like classic with feminine details and a
Hmm.
pop of sparkle.
Yeah.
It's so we teach you how to go through that and kind of sort out, what works, what your special mix is.
Yeah. I love that. Well, and if honestly, I feel like my personal style is a lot like my music, like the things I
Mm.
love to listen to. It's
Yeah,
all over the place.
right.
I mean, you can't pin me down to one genre, like, except I don't
Yeah.
really like country. Sorry, guys. Not a country music fan at all. I've really put in some effort there and I just can't do it. But yeah, I love that. It's like I love that you have like your core style and then your, supporting style and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's really good. Okay, so in your new book, Dress, Styled, and Down the Aisle, you offer an abundance of helpful tools like timelines, and one I particularly love. It's the Bridal Style Blueprint,
Yep.
where the reader answers a series of questions about their personal style, their budget, their body shape. So, in your opinion, why is creating this foundation for your gown style so important?
Yeah. I mean, I think truly the most important thing that a woman could take away from this book is learning to use themselves as inspiration rather than external sources, whether that is what your mother thinks you should wear or what you're seeing on social media. And I think that the foundation piece of work that you need to do when you're engaged is understanding yourself. And that is
Mm-hmm.
going to lead you to make decisions that are right for you. So I put the bridal style blueprint together because I thought about all of the brides that I've worked with over the years and what I take from the consultations that I've done with them. We always start in our company with a style consultation, lasts about an hour. I mean, we do this deep dive into what they like to wear, their style, their words, their wedding, all of these things. And we distill it down and take them to the stores and designers that they need to see. But I thought, okay, so if somebody isn't working with us, how do I how do I set them up for success going to a store? So the bridal style blueprint is designed to give you all of the information you need on one sheet that you need to share with a consultant at a store to get a dress that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Because that consultant is going to know their dresses better than you do. And a big part of our job is that we know the store and the consultants, and then we know the bride. And then it's this collaboration of, information to get the bride the right thing. But without that extra piece of someone that really knows you well, you have to communicate that. And a lot of brides don't really know how to do that. So I wanted
Interesting.
the bride to think about themselves and really do the looking on the inside to understand what they wanted and what they love from their own experience. Like part of the exercise is to go into your own closet. Like, let's look at, what shapes are you seeing there? Are you seeing a lot of V-necks? Are you seeing a lot of A-line? Whatever it is. And then there's a process on how to tally it up. And then from there, you're going to be able to get the information that you need. It's just that people don't know how to look. So
Mm.
we teach them that, and then they will be set up for success when they go into the store.
And I feel like, honestly, that's half the reason. I think besides the sizing, I think that's obviously a major frustration for a lot of people when they
Yeah.
go looking for their wedding attire. But I think the other thing is they don't necessarily know what's going to look great on them. So having this foundational tool and also finding like what their style is, what their comfort zone is, what do they naturally gravitate to and feel the most beautiful. And like, I don't look good with the scoop neck. I've learned that because I
Right.
don't have a pronounced neckline. So like there's certain things that the second I may see it from behind and be like, oh, that's so cute. And then I go to grab it and I see that it's got a scoop and I'm like, nope, putting it
Yep.
back. I don't care how great the back part of it is, you know?
Right. Right.
So I think having that fundamental foundation going into the gown buying process is going to be huge for so
Yeah.
many people. So, all right, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to get a little more granular and talk about destination wedding gowns. So hang tight. We'll be back.
Are you looking for the perfect vendors to make your wedding dreams come true? Well, luckily, Destination I Do has our very own vendor directory. From our homepage, simply click Find a Vendor, scroll down and choose your filters, and learn more about the vendor. You can view their recent work, click on their website, or even find their contact information at the bottom. We personally vet all of our vendors, so you can stop scrolling and just go to destinationidO.com/find-a-vendor.
Hey there, we're back with Julie Sabatino, and we are talking all about wedding gown shopping. And I want to switch gears a little bit with you here, Julie, because
Okay.
most of our listeners are planning a destination wedding. What's some of your advice in ways to ensure the gown gets to the destination without damage, or God forbid it gets lost in transit? Like, what
Oh
are
my.
your go-to
Yes.
advice
Okay. So it's not a one size fits all question, unfortunately, or answer. Okay. It depends a lot on what the destination is. So if you're traveling internationally, you want to be very careful with shipping because things get held in customs all the time, which I'm sure brides are learning the hard way because it can be really, really hard for these big weddings. So I would recommend whenever possible traveling with it. If for whatever reason you can't travel with it, there are very expensive services that will pick the dress up from you and transport it there and make sure that it arrives. It's like a bonded service. I would honestly, I would do that if it's going to Europe somewhere or Asia or overseas, because you just don't want it to get held in customs. You really don't have any idea when it's going to be come out.
Yeah.
So, but also with carrying the dress on, even if it's domestic. So let me back up. If you're having a domestic wedding, but you're shipping your dress, which is completely fine, and we do it all the time, try not to ship it the week of the wedding. Always do it the week before. I have had experiences where there's a storm somewhere in the middle of the country and the dress gets totally, um, you know, into the wrong city, whatever. I had a bride one time that for a lot of complicated reasons, the dress had to be shipped out on Monday. It was supposed to be arriving on Tuesday. She was leaving Wednesday for the wedding. And as of Thursday, she still hadn't gotten it.
Oh, that's scary.
And luckily, they knew someone high up at FedEx, was able to call that person, and they actually went onto the plane and got the dress for her.
Wow.
Without that kind of connection, we don't know. And it was California. It wasn't even a big thing. So you have to analyze your threshold for the unknown. And I even talk about it in the book. Like, is it better to ship it? Is it better to carry it? Here are the pros and cons of each, because carrying your dress is also cumbersome and not always the best thing for the dress either, because you're going to be slinging it over your arm and putting it through a screening metal detector or whatever, security. And, then you're shoving it in the overhead bin or in the hanging compartment, which is never big on the plane. I've had people buy it a seat before. Like, there's just so many complicated things that you have to sort of understand what you're willing to hold. Some people are like, no, I have to physically hold it. And if I'm not, I don't trust it. And other people are fine, okay, well, it'll get there. It's no problem. So, that's sort of the long answer, but there are certain logistical parts of it that you want to make sure of. You want to make sure somebody's there to sign for it because they're always sent with signature required. You want to make sure that it's not the week of the wedding, not on a Friday, because you don't want it sitting in FedEx over the weekend. So do it the week before, things like that.
Does it matter like the size of the dress? Let's say someone got like a really sheath silhouette and it's not something that's going to wrinkle and it actually will travel fairly well. Is that okay to just either bring it with you in a garment bag and put it in the first class closet, or even put it in your carry-on and roll? I'm a huge fan of rolling my clothes. I could literally pack for NASA. It's like a party trick. Like, people are like, how did you fit 10 days worth of stuff in a carry-on? I'm like, it's a learned trait. All my
years of travel. Superpower is what it is.
Superpower.
Oh my God, you have to teach me that.
I will. It's all about packing cubes, rolling, and maximizing every single bit of space. But anyway, so could you do that? And let's say you put it in your checked luggage. Do you recommend getting something like an air tag to just keep tabs on it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. I've air tagged all of my bags since they were lost when I was going to a wedding in Puglia last summer. And oh my God, I didn't get them for like 48 hours. It was hard. But okay, so I think that the packing part of it depends a lot on the fabric. And you want to discuss that in your final fittings or with your fitter. You'll need to make a decision before the final fitting. So when you begin, if you have a fabric that steams out easily, then you're going to be okay. I had a bride one time, the wedding was in Lake Como, and she just bought an extra suitcase, folded it up, put it in, and we were fine. It was a tulle dress. So I knew that I was going to be able to make it look great when I got there, and it was fine. Something else, a silk file dress, I wouldn't do that because going to be harder to get it
Yeah.
looking right.
Right.
And also, if a lot of times these dresses are stuffed in the bodice with like a cardboard thing to make the bust. So that might not go very well if you have other stuff in the suitcase. I would
Right.
probably
Because it's all
recommend
going to
putting,
move around and shift
yeah.
in transit. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever looked out the window and watched those luggage
Oh
handlers.
my God. I
I
know.
mean, they literally, I'm like, I don't even, they're so strong. They pick these huge pieces of luggage and just throw them and then they just slam onto the other ones. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's the reason my luggage looks like it does when it comes out in Vanderbilt.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I think it's like a skill, man. They're strong and they just fling them like nothing.
Well, you don't
Yeah.
give them much to fling, but I do. I mean, they're like, ah, God damn it, you know?
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, let's talk for a second about selecting a gown based on the destination. So, what
Mhm.
suggestions do you have on where to begin? Do you feel like a wedding or a gown has to match the destination?
Uh-huh.
Or do you feel like it's kind of anything goes? Like if you're doing a winery wedding, you can wear whatever. If you're doing a beach wedding, you can wear whatever. Like what's your guideline there for our listeners?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that the venue plays a really important role in the dress that you pick. And I would say that you should never wedding dress shop unless you know what the venue is going to be. Because even within the same, location, a vineyard, for example, there are so many different kinds of vineyards. And what one are you going to pick? So I like to have the venue and the date set before shopping. But you also want to make sure that you're comfortable in the environment, which is almost more important to me than the details necessarily of the dress, because the wearability is something that we talk a lot about in our business. Because, if you're in a tulle dress that happens to be polyester and you're getting married on a beach, it's not going to breathe and you're going to be hot as
You're
hell
gonna be
and you're going to
miserable.
suffer.
Yes.
But if you're in like a 100% silk gown that, breathes and is a little bit more natural, you're going to be fine. So whether or not that dress has sequin on it, it matters less than the appropriateness for the setting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I would say you also want to match the formality of the event. So if you're, asking your guests to be formal, then you want to make sure that you're formal, and all of those things need to come together.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's funny because I've seen, I had a very dear friend, someone you actually probably, I think you know her, Amy Monahan. She's a
Yeah.
wedding planner. She does
Yeah.
loads of really beautiful weddings in Costa Rica, and she owns a company called Tropical Occasions. And she was telling me that they had a bride who was wearing this huge tulle gown. And I'm talking layers and layers and layers of tulle. And as she is walking down to get to the beach to walk down the aisle, she stops on a red ant hill. And the red ants instantly go up into the tulle. Can you imagine that? Like with layers and it's like literally like a net.
Yeah.
She said, I think she was like the one who grabbed like cans of hairspray because there was the hair and makeup stylist was right there, and she's like, give me some hairspray. So she started like spraying them to like get them to like come out of the dress, because they were up in, oh my God, yeah. So she, like,
Oh
quick thinking,
my
was
God.
able to like problem solve. But those are things that like you just never know, like the elements when you're doing a destination wedding. Like, and I'm not trying to scare people, you're not probably like, the likelihood of you stepping on a red ant hill as you're about to make your way down the aisle is pretty unlikely. It's like getting struck by lightning. But, think through those things, because she was
Yeah.
probably miserable, hot, and not to mention, and then the other thing is, if you are thinking of doing a beach wedding, if there's any sort of debris on the sand and
Mhm.
you're wearing something like tulle, it's just going to get caught. And
Oh
then
my
you're
God.
going to
Yeah.
have like this filthy bottom of the dress that you're picking little pieces out on.
Yeah.
So Julie is absolutely right. Like, think about the environment you're going to be
Yeah.
in, obviously for the style and the level of formality, but also just the weather,
Yeah.
are you gonna be hot? Are you gonna be cold? Can you move around in it easily? Like that kind of thing. So yeah.
And even your point is actually really great and something we talk about, because what's the aisle going to be?
Yeah.
And, are you actually going to be on the sand, or are you going to be on a wood plank or whatever.
Mhm.
We just did a destination wedding in France, and it was at a chateau. It was absolutely gorgeous, but the planner grabbed a handful of stones that covered the path that the bride was going to be walking down the aisle, so that we would know. She brought them back to the States for me, so we would know whether or not the veil was going to catch. Because that's the other thing, like you have to think about what's going to happen here. You're going down stairs, and she was walking on it was incredible. But and funnily enough, all of that went well, but the thing that got us was the platform that they built. The corners were
Oh,
rough,
oh
so
no.
she made the whole thing. And well, actually, what we did with this wedding was that we practiced. The morning of the wedding, we got out to the chateau, we put her dress on, and we practiced going down the aisle and seeing what would pull. And it was that. But
Oh God. I mean,
yeah,
that's thorough though. That's like
it is.
really,
Yeah,
that's really,
that was, an extreme situation, but you
yeah.
just want to think of these things, because
Mhm.
as you're going down the aisle, you want to focus on, looking at your groom,
Yeah.
being with whoever is walking you, if that's what you're doing, and enjoying it. You don't want to be worried about, oh my God, am I going to fall? Am I going to trip? Is my veil going to get caught? Is wind going to take it away? You just want to like eliminate as many of those worries as you
Yeah.
can up front.
Well, and I think so many couples like envision this magical, beach wedding. Like a lot of our couples are doing tropical weddings and they're like, oh, I want to get married on the beach. And it's like, it sounds really romantic and
Mhm.
wonderful, but there's a lot of things to consider. Is it a public beach? Is it a private beach? And the other thing for me, like my husband's 6'3". I'm 5'3". I have to wear heels. Like
Yeah.
I have to. Like it's just part of the commitment I made when I knew I was going to marry this man. Like I'm going to be uncomfortable a lot of the time when we're
For the
out in
rest
public.
of my life.
For the rest of my life, I'm gonna be wearing platform heels. But so,
That's
to be
true.
honest, like you can't wear a high heel on a beach.
Yeah.
Like you can't. So those are things that I think, when it comes to fashion and how it impacts or your destination impacts your fashion,
Yeah.
just think through those little things as you're, making your planning. So, okay, one of the biggest things that is specific to destination wedding couples is it's not just about the wedding day and what they're wearing. They have multiple auxiliary
Mhm.
events, literally all weekend, sometimes for like multiple days, 4 or 5
Yeah.
days. And so there's lots of festivities. Do you have any, and they're dressing for all of those festivities. So do you
Right.
have any advice on how they should go about styling their attire for the entire celebration, not just the wedding day?
Yeah, absolutely. We do this a lot, and I call it putting together a fashion story. And what do you want that to be? And it goes back to, in some ways, to your bridal style blueprint. And you look at what it is that you love. Um, for a long, long time, we had brides that wanted to wear white for every event all weekend. So sometimes we were buying like 5 or 6 different white dresses in different iterations. And today, I would say more and more of our clients are wearing color of some sort. But that's not to say that there are definitely white dresses in there as well. So I think that's a big decision you need to make. Do you want to wear white all weekend, or do you want to shake it up? Guests should know up front that they can't wear white to anything, so don't even try. Um,
There's so
that
many other
includes,
colors in the rainbow. Like,
right,
why,
right.
why, why do
Just
people
don't do
decide
it.
to wear white to a wedding? Unless you're told to. Like, I've seen
Exactly.
all white weddings. Like, as long as that's your instruction, that's completely different. But
A
sorry to interrupt.
hundred
Go ahead.
percent. No, no, you're right. But it's off limits to anybody, whether or not the bride chooses to wear it. So even if it's a Thursday night welcome party, don't wear it. But for the bride, that's a big decision. Do you want to wear color or not? And if you decide to wear white, it actually narrows the choices down a lot. I think brides can get really overwhelmed with where to start and what to wear.
Mhm.
And outfit planning for so many days for many different events can be challenging. What we do recommend, though, once you decide about white or color, is putting a deck together of slides. So in our company, we use every client gets a Google Drive, and one of the things that we put in there is a master styling deck. And we will put in inspiration for each venue and then drop in ideas for purchase or what has already been decided. And then we can accessorize from there as well. Because then you can see a running like by the end of it, sometimes we have, 20 pages of stuff because we're doing bridesmaids and then their accessories. And there are so many different pieces of decisions and different pieces of fashion that you need to pick for this weekend. And to make sure that it's cohesive, not only with the venue and the party type, but your style, you kind of need to see them together. And, you can pick a theme where some brides are wearing lace on the wedding day and they love it if all of their outfits leading up have a little lace. No one else knows, but it's a foreshadowing and it means something to them. Other times people want to use it like, to highlight different elements of their personal style. You might be modern in some situations and menswear inspired in others, and, feminine in another, and use them in different ways. So, but coming in with a clear view, I think will help, hone it in.
Definitely. So let's talk for a second about the guest, because I cannot tell you how many times people know I'm in the wedding industry, loved ones, family members, whatever, and they'll call and they're like, what the heck is resort wear? Like, what is that? Or festive cocktail attire? Like, I have no idea what that means. And so, I've seen a lot of couples put together vision boards for their attire or for the attire for the guests, so they have a better guide. Do you feel like that's a wise decision, first of all, for the wedding? And also, like, do you think if you do think that's a wise thing for them to do you think they should extend it to the entire weekend festivities?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I think that it always astounds me the number of questions the bride gets.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, she has people texting her for months, like, oh, what about this or that? And, I think that the boards can really help give people an idea. And, we go to a conference, the Engage conference, and they often put together, I know we're so excited. They put together really great, I know. They put together great inspiration boards for the attire, and people get really into the themes, and they always say, you don't have to, but here's some suggestions so you can feel like you're appropriate. And I think that's the thing, like people want to go in and know that they're going to feel good in their surroundings, and giving people as much information as they can that you don't have to personally give them each time is a win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to couples where they're saying, well, I did a vision board for the wedding, but I didn't really think to do it for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
But they have like really specific themed events. Like, let's say they're doing something in Montana and Yellowstone and they're doing like a cookout. And, people aren't going to be comfortable wearing, cocktail attire to a cookout with, where there's campfire smoke and gingham tablecloths and like metal, flatware. Like it's not necessarily. So I always suggest that, at least to the people I talk to that are like friends and loved ones, I'm always like, oh yeah, definitely put. And I think what you said, Julie, about making sure that it's a suggestion and not a like, here is the required attire, like you have to wear this or you have to wear that. I think if people kind of get an idea of how formal or informal something is, that can really, really help them. Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about for a second your virtual styling services.
Yes,
Can you talk for a quick second about that?
Absolutely. We started this, funnily enough, in 2019. And so right before the pandemic, when everything went virtual.
Did you have a crystal ball?
I know. I mean,
part
seriously.
of the conspiracy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And the reason I did it was because I wanted a way to share the knowledge and all of these things with brides that wouldn't be in-person styling clients for either budgetary reasons or location. But I knew that because we know the market so well, I knew that we could help a lot of people. So we started the virtual styling. And to tell you the truth, I mean, we did some here and there, but it was not I didn't really have the time to make it a big thing. But then during the pandemic and everything went virtual, since then, brides get it so much more. And they really feel like that resource for them gives them a lot of support. And what we find as we're getting the requests is a lot of them will say, I have my wedding dress, but I need rehearsal dinner, after party, accessories, and something for my mom, or whatever it is, because there are so many ancillary items that you need to figure out that everyone thinks, okay, the wedding dress is one thing, but you know, then you get it and you're like, oh my God, I now have to deal with 4 events and 10 people and what the heck is my groom going to wear and all of these things. So you get overwhelmed, and you can book time with us where we talk to you and do a style consultation, just like if you're an in-person styling client. But then we put boards together for you that are clickable and they're shoppable. So you can literally click on them, order it, and then we'll do virtual fittings with you and help you decide what to keep and what to send back.
That's amazing. Okay, I just realized I have a burning question I didn't
Yeah.
know I was going to ask you. Do you ever offer styling services for the entire wedding party? So like, for example, she got her gown, she knows what she's wearing, but now she's like, I'm gonna need help outfitting all of my bridesmaids or
Yeah.
all of the groomsmen or whatever the wedding setup looks like.
All the time,
Okay.
actually. And I think brides really struggle with bridesmaids dresses right now. I mean, they always have, but
Mhm.
the mix and match trend was one of the best things that happened to weddings
No.
and the worst things, because it's hard to do and make
Mhm.
it look good
Yeah.
and not a mess, and make sure your friends don't hate you, basically, because it's a lot of work. And
Mhm.
so figuring out what to put together and how to make that um, something that doesn't drive you completely and totally insane
Yeah.
is hard. So yeah, people hire us all the time to just come in and help them do those boards
Yeah.
and organize it for them, because it's
Well,
hard.
and I'll see couples go, oh, well, we're just gonna have everyone wear black.
Hmm.
Okay, let me just say, not all blacks look the same, right?
Right?
It's like
It's
they're
true.
depending on the type of fabric, like a velvet black can look really rich, whereas like, something in a chiffon can look almost like, charcoal color. So it's like you can't, their fabrics and color, they just it can make it look completely different. So that is not
True.
like a foolproof way to handle getting everyone to wear something that they feel comfortable in. um just stay
Yeah.
away. Go with
No, it's
Julie and
true.
her advice.
It's
Yeah.
it's absolutely true. And it's so funny because we've almost seen a backlash of the mix and match.
Mhm.
We have more and more brides right now having their bridesmaids wear one dress in the
Mm,
same color, in the
interesting.
same style. And I haven't seen that in years. And people don't
Interesting.
want to deal with it. They're like, oh my God. And a lot of times these are a little bit nicer of dresses where
Mhm.
it's not like the traditional bridesmaid dress, but nonetheless,
Mhm.
they're like, one and done.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. So, but picking that and strategically doing it so that everybody looks
Mhm.
good in it is also a challenge. I really feel like any way you slice it, the bridesmaids are difficult. And,
I mean,
um,
if the
you know,
bride has a hard time dressing herself, then try and like fit it with 8
yeah.
different girls that are like all different assets, sizes, shapes,
Oh
all
my
the
God, I know.
things. What I really love, my sister-in-law did this with her wedding, is we all had to wear the same color and the same general, like, so it was the same exact fabric and color, but that particular floor length dress came in multiple different silhouettes and
Yeah.
necklines. And so like I could wear the halter and one other person was wearing like the, one shoulder and someone else
Sure.
is wearing the strapless, but we were all in the same exact color.
Hmm.
And then it was like, and it was the same formality for every one of us. And I thought it was
Yeah.
like a good way of like, okay, it's not this, throwing spaghetti at the wall. And it also isn't like you must wear this even if you feel wildly uncomfortable in it. So I thought that was a really, and I think it was Vera Wang actually that those were the dresses that we wore. I believe they were Vera Wang dresses, and they were beautiful. And I didn't think they were like shockingly expensive either. I
Yeah.
thought like, oh boy, here we go. And it
Right.
wasn't. It was like shockingly a reasonable-ish price. So
Oh.
okay, I want to talk about this is always a good one. In your expert opinion, Julie,
Okay.
what is the number one or biggest mistake you see couples making in regards to their wedding style?
The couple, as a couple.
Yeah, as a couple or the bride or the groom or the brides and the grooms and just
That's a hard one.
is that
Okay.
hard? I'm sorry, I don't mean to give you
No,
a
well, it's
hard one at the
general.
end here.
I know, really. This is supposed to be like a softball. No, because it's general and there are different
Mhm.
things that different people do. And I think, one thing that we come up against a lot in our line of work, because we attend all of the fittings with brides, is that they lose a lot of weight before the wedding. And
Mm.
We advise our clients to always try to be the weight that they want to be. And listen, PS, I'm not saying you should lose weight. I'm not saying that, you have to do anything different. And in fact, my advice is to purchase a dress for the body that you have today and feel great in it. Because that way, if you don't lose weight or, you don't hit the gym as many times as you think you're going to, you still love it.
Yeah.
But with that said, there are a lot of women out there that want to adjust their figure. And you have to do that as much as possible before the first fitting starts, because it's terrible for the dress to start taking it in and taking it in. And every time you lose weight and every time they have to open it back up and take it in again. And that kind of work repeatedly makes the dress not look as great as it could. So,
well, and it's also wildly expensive with alterations.
True.
Like, yeah,
Well,
I
that is
love
true.
that, look at the dress, like look at your size and feel beautiful in what you weigh today.
Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, like your partner is proposing because of who you are today,
Yeah,
not future
exactly.
you. So,
Right.
because if they're trying to start some, renovations, that's one of the things that our officiant said. Like, don't let today, when we were exchanging vows, like, don't let today be when the renovation starts. Like, you married each other for who you are right now, not who
Yeah.
you think the person's going to change into because you're going to mold them. Like, that's not how marriage works.
Nope.
So it's like
Or
you're
fashion.
marrying your dress, so make sure you feel wonderful in that dress the day
Yes.
you put it on. I love that. That's really great. Okay, anything else you want to add or share? Any interesting upcoming plans outside of the release of your book? Which, by the way, when does it hit shelves?
June 3rd, but it's
3rd?
available right now for pre-sale. But yeah, I'm not sure when this is coming out, but yes, June 3rd is the official date. It's like been birthing a child, basically. It's longer and harder, but yes, so I'm excited about it. And we have a really busy season this year, and thank God, which is amazing. And then you know, all of this exciting stuff. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is just I'm going to be doing a small book tour and going around to different cities that, um, and talking to real brides and doing readings and little mini style consultations so that I'm just excited to help more people and to really, I look at this as something like I want to empower women to have the knowledge that they need to go in and have success and feel good doing it. Because people shouldn't, I mean, listen, I hate the word shouldn't because I think that should and shouldn't is a hard thing. But if you can avoid not having tears in a bridal salon,
It should be
nobody
happy
needs
tears
that.
because you love what you're looking
Exactly.
at and you love
Yeah. This is
that
a vulnerable moment in a
reflection.
woman's life. And
Yeah.
if I can make this a little bit easier, I'm still like, it's still cathartic for me after all of these years from 2001. So
That's
I'm excited
amazing.
for that and just talking to more people.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've learned some really helpful tips. So maybe when I do my vow renewal, I'll be coming to you for some styling tips. I'll do
I
a
will be
virtual
there.
styling session with you.
Yes.
Um, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being
Thank
on.
you for having me. It was a pleasure. I love talking to you and I appreciate it so much.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So if you want to follow Julie, thestylishbride.com is her website. And then online on Instagram, she's at the stylish bride. Make sure to go out and purchase your book, which is called Dressed, Styled, and Down the Aisle. And if you'd like to follow or subscribe or leave a comment in our podcast comments section, please do. We are destinationido.com online and we are at Destination I Do on all the socials. See you next time. Bye.